Hello my friends and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Well, I have 4 topics for this video and very interesting and very revealing. Now remember, when I make videos and if you watch regularly, you're going to create a worldview. You're going to be supplied from me with some information plus interpretations of the information, the analysis, in which is going to shape your worldview actually. Now you will disagree with what I say, but the information is over there. Therefore, I will provide you with pieces of news that your brain will memorize and will retrieve, get back when needed. All right, I know what I'm doing here. So, thank you very much for being with me again today. So what do I have? The first topic. The Pentagon clears way for Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine. Final decision rests with Trump. Now, for you, you're gonna memorize this, and when in the future they will tell you that it was actually Trump's fault, you're gonna realize that actually Pentagon cleared the way. All right? So when that will happen, you kind of know who are actually in charge, if you remember this piece of information. Next topic that I will discuss in this video is the following. Top US officials move to military bases in Kirk, Charlie Kirk's murder aftermath. There is at least 2 that I see here listed in this article, left their house and live in military bases right now. And those are let you know later. And no, that's one of them. Let you know later is one of them. The other one is I'll tell you later. So that's the second. The third topic, I want to show you, so there's no doubt, what international law is, how the United States of America ignores it, and how the vassal states have to follow what the US dictates as a violation of the international law. I will show you. Because, you know, the US wants a rules-based world order. That is, US makes the rules, everybody else follows them, and I can bend them whenever I feel like when it's about my interest. That's the justice. Now, if you're okay with that in the international arena, remember, an abusive person is not abusive only with that person or that group. That's the nature of that person. Is going to be abusive to you and to your group and next to his group and him, because that's the way they are. So if they violate international law and they act as an Al Capone with a plantation with slaves on it, they will do the same thing with you too if they do this to other countries. Why not, if nobody can keep them in check? And there is, regarding Hungary, Viktor Orban, the Prime Minister of Hungary, requested his friend Donald Trump, which is not a friend. Donald Trump is a tool. A tool. He has no friends. He has only things that his people or whomever he has to use for the guy, for the main interests that are over there handling Trump. Trump is just a tool, all right? And he's in charge supposedly of a whole country, which he's not. He is actually a public servant of the country. He's not the owner of the country, but the media gives you that illusion. So Orban asked Donald Trump, requested an exemption from sanctions on Russian oil firms. And Trump said, no. Nem, as in Hungarian, nem. Why? First, why Hungary should obey another country's sanctions on another country? Has no obligation unless this is a good incentive for being obliged to follow what that guy does. Now, you want to be part of that club? I wouldn't. All right, and the last topic, China urges United States to immediately lift sanctions on Cuba. You might ask, why? Well, first, why the US has sanctions placed on Cuba still? Why is there still an embargo? Is it? All right. It was in General Assembly, it was a resolution that was blocked by the United States of America, of course, regarding lifting the sanctions on Cuba. And the United States of America came with its own resolution asking everybody to place sanctions on Cuba because Cuba is part of the war in Ukraine. You understand that? You can't make shit up. So let's start with the first topic. Sputnik. Pentagon clears way for Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine. Final decision rests with Trump. So when you're going to hear Trump saying yes, Tomahawk missiles for Ukraine, or no Tomahawk missiles for Ukraine, he's going to be the guilty guy, not these guys right here. You understand that? All right. So he's going to be the problem. What do you think? Will they send Tomahawk missiles? Well, what are the consequences? The Russians clearly said that is you at war with me. We're going to ignore, we're going to stop pretending that is, Ukraine versus Russia. When we all know it's you and your vassal states against me. And after I fall, you hope, China is next. All right, so that's the first one. Remember, Pentagon clears the way. So that means Pentagon could have said no. Well, after all, Pentagon is a department in Trump's administration. So Trump is their boss. So what do you mean these guys clear it? Oh, well, let's see what these guys are saying, right? Right. Washington. The Pentagon has authorized the White House to supply long-range Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine, and now it is up to U.S. President Donald Trump to make the final decision. CNN reported on Friday, citing U.S. and European officials. What do you mean? What do you mean the Pentagon authorized the White House to supply long-range Tomahawk missiles? Question. Answer. Did the Pentagon also authorize Biden to send tanks to Ukraine, or howitzers, or Patriot systems, or HIMARS? Did it? If it did, is that the way it works? Maybe I'm an ignorant, but I don't think that's the way it works. I think the Pentagon does what the fuck ever the Commander-in-Chief says. So remember this one. If Trump will send over there Tomahawk missiles, it's because Pentagon allowed them. Who's in charge? The military-industrial complex. And the Russians said, we're going to strike you, it's going to be World War III. Nuclear war, not conventional. But hey, we'll see. These guys are pushing like a toddler. You see how the toddlers, the children, push their parents to see the boundaries, how far they can go? That's exactly what these guys are doing with Russia. They try to see how far they can go before they get a smack. And the smack will be actually nuclear. And we're going to be all affected by it. So let's go and see these courageous people right there. Top U.S. officials moved to military bases in Kirk murder aftermath, the Atlantic. Members of the Trump administration, you have them right here, Punk Pakatsang, has been seeking increased security after the killing of Charlie Kirk, the outlet has said. High-ranking of U.S. officials, including Secretary of War Pete Hegseth and Secretary of State Marco Rubio, have left their homes in Washington and moved to military bases outside the capital. The Atlantic has reported. Now let me tell you this. Do you remember how our ancient kings, rulers used to fight wars? Yeah, they said, let's go! And they were ahead of everybody else. And they were most courageous and strong guys. But hey, things change. Our strong and courageous leaders are leading from the back. No, remember, leading means you are in front of everybody else. Now our leaders are leading from the back. Remember General Schwarzkopf, Desert Storm, that decorated super general who fought a toddler, which is Iraq, remember? Yeah. He was fighting Iraq from I don't know how many thousands of miles away. The courageous guy. Do you remember the Desert Fox? Do you remember him? Romwell? Remember him? In the Second World War? Where was he in Africa? Right there, my friends, right there. In Libya he was. And he was fighting in North Africa. He was not fighting from Deutschland, ja, jawohl, mein Führer, wie geht's? He was over there. Look at the pictures. Where was Marshall at one point? Paulus in Stalingrad. He was, it's cold, goddammit. He was not in Berlin. But our leaders nowadays are hiding in the fucking military bases. Why? Because they're courageous. No, they're not. I'm not saying you should be an ignorant, but like that, because of Charlie Kirk, you didn't have Martin Luther King, you didn't have, what's his name, Lincoln Rockwell. You know who that is? Check him out. All right? They didn't have the other guy, Robert Kennedy. Now they woke up about it. My God. They didn't have Trump. All right, let's move on. Lincoln Rockwell. I said it. Okay. Sputnik. Trump says U.S. denied Orban's request for exemption from sanctions on Russian oil firms. So this is a country, all right, let's put it this way, and this is another country. This country is not in charge of this country is not in charge of this country. Under the United Nations, both countries has equal rights, except one has a veto power in the Security Council. That's it. Other than that, they're equal. But somehow Orban, the prime minister of one country, asked another guy from another country, hey, can you cut me some slack here with your sanctions against that country? And he said, no. Under what power? Oh, that power. You got it. All right. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban has asked for the country to be exempt from U.S. sanctions on Russian oil. So U.S. sanctions Russian oil companies. And they say, no, Hungary has to respect that. Under what the fuck treaty? But Washington has not granted the request. U.S. President Donald Trump said on Friday, and I'm quoting, he has asked for an exemption. We have not granted one, but he has asked. He's a friend of mine. He has asked for an exemption. You, Trump, should have no authority to have a country do what you want them to do by you gotta do it. It's based on threats. Now, you want to have a friend like that? Do you think that the relationship is a friendship relationship? According to Trump, it is. Why? Because his relationship is down, up, down. He's not down, up, or equal. He doesn't know what friendship is. He says friends, like I tell you, I don't know, I met, I don't know, who should I say? Donald Trump. Yeah, I met Donald Trump. Yeah, I saw him, but I didn't meet him. I saw him. But I didn't meet him. Hey, Donald Trump here and take $5,000 to take a picture with me. That's a friend. So Donald Trump sees Orban as a friend only when Orban is going to follow his orders. If tomorrow Orban says, screw you, Donald Trump, I'm going to do business with whomever I want under the international law, United Nations, and you can't do anything, do you think that Trump will say, yeah, he's my friend. I respect his decision. He's not going to say that. He's going to say, he's a vassal. He's the dictator. He's a strongman. That's how he rolls. Again, have you heard Putin telling India the same thing? Have you heard Putin telling China the same thing when the Americans threatened them with sanctions and tariffs? What did they say? It's each country's own decision. They're independent and sovereign. Now, which friend do you want to have? The Trump friend or the evil friend from the Kremlin? I just ask you. Based on action and evidence, I don't want to have this guy as a friend. I'm friend with him as long as I do his thing. If I say not tonight, I'm not his friend anymore. But he never sucks mine. Now, that's not a friendship, you understand that. Let's move to the next one. And the last topic. Sputnik. China urges U.S. to immediately lift sanctions on Cuba. So China becomes, remember China. Xi Jinping met Trump, and Trump has a fantastic meeting with Xi Jinping, remember, in South Korea. Fantastic. But look what China does. China urges U.S. to immediately lift sanctions on Cuba. This is from 10 hours ago. Updated. That is, they met yesterday, more than 24 hours ago. And this is 10 hours ago. So this is after the successful meeting between the Xi Jinping and Trump. China urges the United States to immediately lift sanctions on Cuba, and Beijing will continue to firmly support the Cuban people in their struggle against foreign interference. So who is the foreign interference? United States of America. Again, the friend. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Guo Jiakun said on Friday. On Wednesday, the United Nations General Assembly adopted a resolution for the 33rd time urging the U.S. to lift sanctions on Cuba, which was supported by 165 countries, with 12 abstaining and 7 voting against the document. So 165, you know how many countries recognize Israel? Less than 165. And you know how many countries recognize Palestine? About 155. So 165, remember how many countries are condemning Russia? About 50. So you tell me, based on democracy and the majority rules, what should the United States of America do? They should obviously lift the sanctions because 165 countries voted to lift them. The United States of America will take a shit on them. But on the other hand, he will tell his friend, where is he? His friend, that you can't do anything because I tell you so. But we're friends. This is ridiculous. And I'm quoting. China will continue calling for international justice and stay firmly committed to supporting the Cuban people in fighting against external interference and blockade, following the development path befitting Cuba's national conditions and safeguarding sovereignty and dignity. We urge the United States to heed the overwhelming call from the international community, immediately lift the blockade and sanctions on Cuba and remove Cuba from the so-called list of state sponsors of terrorism. The UN General Assembly has been voting annually since 1992 to adopt resolutions calling for an end to the embargo on Cuba. The Cuban government says that sanctions, financial persecution, and curbs on sales and medicines, fuel, and essentials to the island nations have intensified under U.S. President Donald Trump. Do we love democracy? So why don't we obey by the United Nations vote? So all this is just a, how should I put it? It's a lie. It's a mirage. It's a fake. The same as the voting in America. I think it's fake. That's my personal opinion as a human being. I think that the rules are already made, and the rules are broken depending on who the hell has to win. I think the presidents are selected, and we are just asked to confirm them, to legitimize them in the eyes of the whole world. And you always have a strata of the population who really believes in democracy. Why? Because they're feeble-minded, and they believe everything the mass media, the free mass media in the United States of America, tell them. There you go. I think each and every president in the past, let's say from 1970 on 60, 70, they were already fixed. Fixed in one way. They knew who's going to be. And the guys who knew also play in the same team. They pretend to play in different teams, but they are from the same team. Why? Because the interests cannot allow us to really have a say. And they tell us we have a say, but really make a decision. Remember, it was, I think, Mark Twain who said this, that if democracy works, if democracy, do you think these guys allow us to really vote? I mean, they allow us, but do you think that our vote really has value? They won't let us vote a second. We would vote for universal health care. We would vote for the so-called politicians to have a salary less than we have. I mean, who in the right mind will hire someone for a better price than me? Like, I have my company and I hire you and I give you a better salary, better health insurance, better vacation than I give me. You're my employee, God damn it. That's what you are. A politician is the public servant, is an employee of the public, and they vote for their salaries, for the medical perks, for everything, and these guys don't fucking have health insurance. There's no such a thing as a referendum. Remember, the politicians in America, still right now, they are not paid in certain states. Not paid. They do it voluntarily. Oh, who will do it them? You do it if you have passion and love. That should be what matters in politics, not money and power. But hey, it's been perverted since we have the bazaar ideals as the Judeo-Christian culture nowadays. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.